Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, distinguished guests, and folks of all stripes, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Salazar Jr., coming to you live from studio here in Los Angeles with our co-host and producer, Carla the dog. You can find Space Cadet Sports at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram and TikTok. You can also find the blog at spacecadetsports.substack.com, where you can find a lot of Astros fan content. I have blogs. I blog articles, I should say. I have a singular blog with blog articles, memes, reactions, game recaps, podcasts, video podcasts. Go give it a look. It's free to subscribe. You can get emails directly into your email every time I post something. Just with the free subscription there. Or if you want to go premium and support the podcast, support the blog. For just $5 a month, you can get a free all-you-can-eat pass to Space Cadet Sports. Give that a shot. Give that a look. I also have a very low-fee annual subscription if you want to do that as well. But yeah, please subscribe. Support the podcast. Reach out to us on Instagram or social media. And yeah, let's get to it today. So today is an off day for the Houston Astros. We're coming off of I almost said sweep by the Washington Nationals. It feels that way emotionally, but it wasn't quite that way if you actually watch the games. I have watched every single inning of Astros baseball this season, and I know a lot of people out there, it's really doom and gloom right now. After, even myself, I called for the Astros to sweep the Nationals because I think that they, on paper, they are a better team, but these games are not played on paper, obviously. The Nationals got the better of the Astros 2 out of 3 games here in this series, and that is not where the Astros need to be if they want to kind of bounce back from the slow start to the season that they have had. So yeah, there is disappointment in the air for Astros fans. It is not the best feeling right now. Definitely stay off of social media. I have been blocking and getting rid of a lot of haters out there on the social media that are very happy to be dunking on any Astros fans right now. I definitely process stuff with humor, so I have a lot of humorous memes out there. If you're like me, if you're a positive diehard Houston Astros fan, and you also have a sense of humor about it, because I mean, come on, how can you not? Life is too difficult to be so serious about everything. Give us a look. Check out the social media. Check out the memes. Go out there and help support the Houston Astros fans from all these haters out there. But yeah, we like to keep it a positive place around here. So we are going to try to talk a little bit about the Astros' struggles and where they need to be, but we're going to try to remain positive. It is still April, folks. It is now technically getting to late April, so we can definitely, we're feeling a little bit tenser about the situation the Astros are in, but it is still April. I definitely understand a lot of reservations. It's hard to see the team struggle. It's hard to see the team lose. But really, in that second game of the National Series, up until the late innings, I really thought that my prediction of a sweep was going to come true. We got JV coming back. Ronell had a great start. We were riding the momentum. But the Nationals, you got to give them credit. They took the momentum back. They kind of stole the vibes from the Astros, and were able to ride that win to another win. Honestly, the Astros struggled in the last game versus the Nationals, getting shut out. 6-0 there is not the outcome that we wanted to see. And it's definitely a struggle because you look at the Astros statistically. You look, when you watch every inning, when you watch every pitch like I have, you don't just go along with what the radio hosts and the podcast hosts and the bloggers are saying, because there's a lot of doom and gloom out there, because rightfully there has been a lot of bad performances or a lot of struggling performances from Astros players. However, when you look at it kind of long term, when you look at how everybody's doing, that aside from a couple of players, there has been a lot of good performances, just a lot of misses, a lot of bad luck, a lot of things that are not going to equate to winning baseball, like walking batters or higher strikeout rates. But overall, you see how the Astros are approaching the game, and it has been how they've approached games in the past. Now, obviously, with these struggles, it's going to put a little bit more stress and tension on getting results, but the way they approach the game has been the same. So all this criticism of the Astros aren't in it, or the Astros have bad body language, the Astros don't want to win. I really don't see that. I don't see that. I know that there's Jose Abreu at times, definitely he's struggling, so he has bad body language, but it isn't like he's not quitting. I don't see people on this team quitting. I see frustration, and there's a huge difference. I think there's a huge difference between quitting and frustration. So personally, I understand where some people these frustrations are coming from. You have a right to be frustrated. I get that, but I don't understand where the narrative of this team has given up is coming from. Now, that being said, I do think that we do need a new swag leader. I've said this in the past. I definitely haven't mentioned it in a bit because, I just don't see who it is right now. There's a lot of lead by example people, not a lot of kind of talkative people like Martin Maldonado or Carlos Correa on this squad that'll kind of get in your face and kind of fire you up. I think that people are saying that this team lacks leadership. I don't think the team lacks leadership. Is what it lacks is what you're looking for, I guess, as the critic here, is you're looking for performative leadership. You're looking for somebody to go out there and kind of shake things up and get in people's faces. And, that is one way to lead. I'm not saying that is not effective. I'm not saying that is not what this team needs. I'm just saying that the people on the Astros right now are lead by example people, and sometimes that's what you need. You don't need somebody pushing you around so much. I know for myself, I don't always respond well to somebody getting in my face, putting their finger in my chest. I don't do well with authority figures, I guess, that way. But I do better with people, with leading by example type people. Now, that being said, I'm not saying that somebody going in there, a player getting in there and firing them up won't change anything. I definitely know that Justin Verlander told Mauricio Dubon that the Astros needed to get their heads out of their asses. Essentially is me paraphrasing the quote. He did say that essentially, but I don't want to say that I'm quoting Mauricio Dubon, who is quoting Justin Verlander, because then it's just a game of telephone. I'm not trying to be. I'm not trying to pretend that I'm a huge journalist. I'm just paraphrasing here. But, perhaps Justin Verlander is going to be that guy. Perhaps he's going to help, get the team to focus and be kind of the quote unquote leader that people are calling for. And once again, I don't think that the Astros lack leadership, but what they do lack is, people want to see a fire under the belly of their athletes, which I don't know. There's definitely, I think there's times that highly responsible for results, maybe in postseason and playoffs and stuff like that. But, I think sometimes during the season, you don't want to, have misguided passion. You don't want to have like a Draymond Green type person that, is just always fired up and always, kind of getting at people and chirping, So I do think there is validity to that argument. I just think that it is kind of a scapegoat and not kind of the biggest reason the Astros are struggling. I think the real reason is that for whatever reason, we're at the top, we're towards the top of the league in hits, towards the top of the league in average. There's a lot of good hitting going on in the Astros generally. Obviously, the last game of the shutout, that's not what we want to see from our offense, but an offense can have bad days, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that is just a really bad game that we're bouncing back from. But generally, the Astros have been doing good in terms of hits and getting hits. But what they've struggled to do is getting timely hits. Even in certain games and at certain times, they've done well with runners in scoring position. Mauricio Dubon, at some point in this Washington series, I believe at least at the beginning, he was the leader in the league for average with runners in scoring position. So I do think there are hits on this roster. They're in this lineup, I should say. There are hits with runners in scoring position on this roster and lineup, but somehow there just hasn't been timely hitting. There hasn't been that clutch hitting, and you definitely could look at sequencing. But when we're looking at sequencing, this is not Dusty Baker managing the Astros. This is Joe Espada. There has been changes to the sequence of the way that batters at bat. Namely, and to some people's criticism, Yordan Alvarez is batting second. Also, Jose Abreu is batting as low as 8th for the first time in his career. Jeremy Pena and Yainer Diaz have worked their way up the batting order because of their hitting prowess this season. And Mauricio Dubon bats 9th to kind of help turn the lineup over with a new leadoff hitter in a way. So there is new school things that is happening to this lineup. It isn't sequencing for the sake of some manager not trying to change the lineup. This manager is very much trying to change the lineup. We are just not getting the hits that we need in the times that we need as a fan base and the Astros as a team, and that's frustrating. I don't know. I don't have a lot of statistics and statistical knowledge to know exactly if there's a bad luck stat in a way, but it does look like if the Astros continue to be consistent and if the Astros get some better offensive production from their corner infield, no matter who's playing first base, whether it's Abreu or Singleton subbing in, and Bregman, who looked like he was turning a corner until he kind of had that illness there. We definitely need some more slugging from the corner infield if the Astros are going to continue to succeed offensively. There's some games where they're doing really well offensively, and it just isn't enough to beat the team because somehow the pitching begins to struggle. Going to... Oh, it's okay, Carla. Carla is not happy with the pitching struggles. But going to the pitching struggles specifically, I think the frustration there, for me at least, is that we don't have starting pitching because... once again, Christian Javier, we have another starting pitcher on the injured list. Christian Javier has been placed on the injured list on a 15-day IL retroactively. Spencer Arrighetti was called up for his roster spot. So now, once we got Justin Verlander back, the Astros, are like, we still want a nice 5-man IL pitching rotation, and Christian Javier unfortunately got a neck injury. So once again, right when we thought we were kind of turning the tide and getting back to normal health and getting back to a rebuilt rotation, we have a huge rotation injury with Christian Javier being out. And this is really tough. And I find this very difficult. It's a tough pill to swallow. There's been a lot of reporting as to why there has been an increase in pitching injuries in baseball recently. The Players Association definitely is pointing at the pitching clock. The pitchers not being able to go through routines, rushing routines. Other statistical people are pointing at spin rate and high velocity. being things that teams value. So these pitchers are going out there and throwing their arms off, trying to get high velocity and incredibly inhuman spin rates. So there's definitely an argument to be had on both sides. I don't know enough about it to truly say what is the problem. I do think that there's a lot of people saying that perhaps the pitching clock is not as big of a culprit as you think, but it maybe perhaps has led to certain injuries. So, I just don't know enough to say for certain. But what is for certain is that there has been a lot of injuries, and it definitely has hit the Astros, and it's hit them very hard at the beginning of this season. And we are playing what I lovingly call the Suicide Squad rotation. We have out there a lot of young stars that are developing, a lot of minor league stars that we're calling up and putting into positions that maybe we aren't quite as ready. We aren't quite as comfortable with having them there as an organization or as a fan base. So that's definitely difficult. And I think there's a lot of people also looking at the back end of the bullpen, which hasn't really performed as fans have expected. And, you're looking at that and you're like, okay, a lot of people are saying, okay, well, you signed Josh Hader, this expensive $95 million closer to come in when we really didn't have a closer problem yet. But we did know we were down a couple starters. So why did Jim Crane or General Manager Dana Brown sign Hader instead of somebody like Blake Snell or some other starting pitcher? And I think, I've spoke to this in the past a little bit, but I think really, I'll get into it on a future podcast as to why that would be. But, if we're looking at it, if we didn't have Hader, just really blankly, if we didn't have Hader and Presley struggling, we still have struggling from the back end there. So I do understand there is perhaps some merit to that argument, but from my perspective, it's like, okay, there's already struggling from the back end. Our biggest issue right now would be having healthy starters, because if we had healthy starters, perhaps we could bring somebody to the back end that has good enough stuff and high enough strikeout rates to perhaps help us close out those games, or perhaps pitch the eighth inning to help us close out those games. Maybe that be somebody like Ronel Blanco, going back from being a reliever to a starter to a reliever again, because we just need him to be a setup guy. I don't know. I truly think, I'll get into this further, why I think really, it's hard. It's kind of Monday morning quarterbacking to say that the Astros should have gone for starting pitching, But I do think that if they had started healthier starting pitching, these early season struggles wouldn't be where they are at right now, and that's just sadly where we are at as Astros fans, and as the Astros organization is looking for people that can give you quality innings, quality starts, and extra outs in the middle relief for when the pitchers need to be pulled early. And at least this wasn't as bad as a couple weeks ago where we just couldn't get any innings out of the starters. But it's definitely hard to win games when we kind of are having some struggling outings from some of these starting pitchers. But yeah, let's just we'll get into kind of some of those arguments. I have a podcast in mind for tomorrow, or at least later on in the week, that we'll get into some of those things a little deeper. I know some people are like, oh, you're so positive, this is not, we shouldn't be living in a la la land and not looking at reality. But I do think this is me looking at reality and just being more pragmatic. I mean, I think if you want to be angry at something, you could always find an excuse to be angry at something. For me, as a fan, it's more about being positive, more about, really figuring out where the culprit is, as opposed to just listening to some guy on the radio where he's saying things and I'm like, I don't think this guy even watched the game. I don't think he's watched any of these games, So what we're going to do is we're going to move forward. just real quick, I did want to briefly mention Fangraphs. They had an article today called "The Astros Are Rapidly Digging Their Hole Deeper and Deeper." Once again, another doom and gloom article. But what I did find interesting about that is, we are looking at the worst starts for eventual playoff teams in this grid here. And the 2015 Rangers got to the playoffs when they started with an 8-15 record. They got a final record of 88-74. And they were able to get into the playoffs, right? So it's not like obviously this is not the start that anybody wanted. There has been teams that have got to the playoffs after abysmal starts, but you don't even have to reach that far back to find it. So don't panic quite yet. Now, obviously, the Astros are in a hole. So what we're looking at here in one of these other the Zips median projected AL West standings entering April 22nd. Is the Astros are projected right now to win about 83 games. That would be, right now, based off this projection, obviously, that would be good enough for third in the division, which would give them a full playoff percentage chance, playoff odds of 41%, winning the World Series at 3.5%. And the World Series percentage at 17.9. And actually, even though that is a projection, they have a divisional chance. They have a chance of winning the division at 23.1%, whereas the Rangers right now are 40% chance to win the division. And the Rangers right now are slightly above 500. So obviously this division is going to be a little bit more contested this season than we expected. And that's something that I said at the beginning of the season. That's something I've been saying for a while. That's no surprise. It is going to be tightly contested. But right now, the good news is, while the Astros have been struggling so much, the Rangers and the Mariners haven't really came out as world beaters quite yet. So we do have some time to close the gap as an organization. The Astros have time to close the gap if they are able to get to some winning baseball. However, in order to get to some winning baseball, in order to get to, let's say, 86% or 85 wins, I believe, you have to win about 60% of the remaining games. So the Astros have a tall order ahead of them. They definitely are capable of it, but what it means is that a lot of these losses, as they pile up, they're going to get a little tighter and tighter for our odds and for our chances to being able to root on our team in the playoffs. However, it's not over yet. There's been so many teams that have defied the odds, so many teams that have fought back, and I think the Astros, while they have had their struggles, they are still playing some good baseball. Now, we want them to play great baseball. We want them to get back to playing exceptional baseball. But there hasn't been so many red flags as people have said. Now, obviously, first base is a red flag. Obviously, until we have starting pitchers completely healthy, the pitching situation is a red flag, whether that's going to be in the starting pitching or in the middle or with our back-end pitchers. It seems like there's a coin flip, like we just can't get everything going in the same game unless Justin Verlander's starting, and so we're going to have to, get that going. And also it's been kind of tough to have games where the offense is on and the defense is on at the same time. So, there are definitely huge questions as to this team. But I do think that they have winning baseball, and I do think that they are not panicking. I do think there's a reason why Joe Espada is there. He knows these guys. He's been with these guys for a while. And today they have a day off, and they are traveling to Chicago to play at Wrigley Field, which honestly, folks, it's kind of crazy to say they have not been there in quite some time, because the Astros I grew up with played in the National League Central, and the Chicago Cubs were one of their divisional rivals. Their manager was Dusty Baker. It was crazy. It seems like it's a whole universe away from where we are at right now, with the Astros playing in the AL West and not having played at Wrigley Field, I believe. I wrote it down. I don't have it in front of me. I believe it was 2013. I might be misquoting that, so I apologize if that is not correct. But it has been quite some time since the Houston Astros have visited Wrigley Field. It's going to be nice to see them playing there. And honestly, I hope it's nice to see them playing there because they get some wins. So going into this series, if we're looking at a series preview here, with Christian Javier going on the IL. That bumped Hunter Brown to take the start in Washington. I know it's on normal rest, but he was expecting, at least probably until that day, that he was going to pitch in Wrigley Field. So where that leaves us is that we're going to get J.P. France on the first day at Wrigley. J.P. France is going to pitch against Jordan Wicks. Jordan Wicks is a 6'3", 220-pound left-handed pitcher that plays for the Chicago Cubs. He's only 24 years old, so he has a very, very minimal stats. He's only pitched in 4 games this season. He's started 4 games, all 4 of them, but he's only so far pitched 17 innings. He's racked up a lot of hits, a decent amount of runs, only 1 home run. So his FIP is 3.09, but he still has a pretty high whip. So, we're really hoping that the Astros can jump on this pitcher like they did the first game of the Nationals game, kind of jumping on a young left-handed pitcher a bit, as opposed to the last Nationals game where they kind of got owned by a young left-handed pitcher. So we're hoping that they are able to focus up, kind of eat this pitcher up, kind of like the same game plan that I said for Washington Nationals is the left-hander is the same game plan they have here, and honestly probably till the rest of the season until we are able to feel home run production and slugging throughout the lineup like we have in years past. I think right now the name of the game is to swing at strikes early and to make sure that we never expand the zone. String it if they're throwing strikes. We gotta take them right now. We gotta put the ball in play, get some hits, get some men on base, and if we have to play a little small ball, we can play a little small ball. But either way, put men on base, get our batters in position to knock in some runs, even if they've been struggling recently. Let's kind of shake the cobwebs out. In order to do that, in order to get men on base, and if you're going to be swinging a lot at early strikes, you're going to have to lay off when the pitcher starts throwing balls. They're going to start throwing balls around, nipping the edges around the plate. That means that these batters are going to have to change their strategy a little bit, in the middle of the at-bat, and lay off the bad pitches. Work the count to get as full as you can get the count. Really, really get that pitcher tired and get on base. The Astros can do this. They've done this before. They've done it, during the Washington series against Mackenzie Gore. So I'm hoping that that's the mentality they bring. I hope that, they're not panicking. There's been a lot of talking. There's been a lot of talk of, trying to shake them out of their rut here. So I hope they're not panicking and not trying to do too much. Playing within their skill sets and within their game to get on base is what I would like to see. And I think if they can do that, this could be a game that we have a chance in. And, like JP, goes out there, gives us a quality start. Or, I'll give him like kind of I'll give him the training wheels quality start. If he can give us 5 innings and just 3 runs, I really think the Astros can win this game. So for the second game, we actually don't know who we have pitching quite yet. It'll probably be Spencer Arrighetti. Hopefully what the Astros want, though, is for Framber Valdez to come back and pitch this second game for the Astros. And if Framber comes back, or if this is going to be a spaghetti time. We get Spaghetti Arrighetti. Either way, they'll be pitching against Jameson Taillon. Jameson Taillon, he's kind of been around for a while. He's pitched in Pittsburgh. He's pitched in New York. That's where we have seen him. I believe this guy is from the Woodlands. Yeah, so there's definitely a Houston connection here. And I'm working on my pronunciation. It's Taillon. Sorry, Jameson. But yeah, definitely trying to do better with my pronunciation guides here. But yeah, this guy right now, he's only started 1 game for Chicago this season, but he has professional stuff. He definitely could be a pitcher that can eat up the Astros. He's done so in the past, but if the Astros are focused up, they can really put the hurt on him and kind of knock him out early as well. And that's what we need, and that's what we're hoping for. And for the third game, I guess I should say if If it's Fromber, he'll be coming back without a minor league rehab start. So we're hoping he comes back, focused and ready to go. Be tough to have a kind of rehab start from him if he isn't quite ready. If he isn't quite ready, I do think then we have to get ready for spaghetti. It's spaghetti time with Arrighetti. And if Arrighetti's there, he does have good stuff. He has that great sweeper. He has high strikeout potential, but he has been struggling with walks. And I do know that now that the league has more tape on him, he might have to be making adjustments. So we will see who we get, but I'm really hopeful about that as well. Now in the third game, what we'll have is a JV start. They don't want Justin Verlander to be pitching in Mexico City, where the balls will be flying through the air, and we want him to keep building on his starts. We're gonna have JV pitch the third game there. So excited about the JV game. Hopefully that will be solid. Justin Verlander will be pitching against Javier Assad. Javier Assad, a 26-year-old player from Mexico. Let's see. Sorry, I'm pulling up. He's got a decent. Oh my gosh, I had it all in front of me, and I'm struggling to get it now. But yeah, he's also pitched for the Chicago Cubs here for a couple seasons. He's a young pitcher for him. He's pitched 4 games, started 4 games this season. His whip is at 1.03 with a FIP of 3.72. So, he started off pretty good. He's looking like he's having a solid season and, looks like a pretty good young pitcher. He is a right-handed pitcher. So we're hoping that we can kind of get to Javier Assad there on the JV game and give JV some run support and kind of change that narrative that the Astros don't give JV run support. So yeah, that's what we're looking ahead to Chicago. They're going to play those 3 games in Chicago. They're going to take a day off, travel to Mexico City, and then they're going to have the 2 games in Mexico City against the Colorado Rockies. Obviously, as I predicted, we did not sweep the Washington Nationals. Like I said, I always think predictions are kind of crazy. They're always kind of weird. But also, I understand the fun thing of it. And if I'm going to be podcasting and doing silly things and making jokes, I should feel okay with making predictions, So until I just really struggle with it or I just can't do it anymore, I will try to make predictions. And I predicted poorly for Washington. I do think there's in an alternate dimension. They did sweep them. They could have swept them. They just didn't get the results. For the Cubs, I'm going to say they take 2 out of 3. I think they need to sweep them. I'm praying that they do, but I think realistically they take 2 out of 3. I think they take the JV game, and I think they win one of the other 2. Just on some quality hitting and some quality pitching. I'm hoping they sweep, though. And that's really what this team needs. They need wins. They need to kind of shake this press off their back, and start returning to their winning ways. But it is not time to panic. It's not time to worry. It's still late April. And I've been joking that until May, it really is hard to figure out how this team is going to play and if they're shaking it off yet. So May is around the corner. That joke being true, we will see who the Astros are in May, but hopefully it will not be because they are in such a hole that they have to win every single game. This team does like playing with their backs to the wall, but I do not want that to be the whole season, just a whole season playing with their back to the wall. But we'll see. I'm optimistic. I'm feeling that this is where we're going to begin climbing that rock wall, getting our whole footing, getting our holds there, and start climbing up this wall and start getting out of this hole. We just got to stay positive, folks. Just like that SpongeBob meme, we just got to believe. And I think that's going to be it for today. Yeah, thanks so much for listening to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Once again, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Space Cadet Sports. I've been your host, Paul Salazar Jr. You can find me on social media at Paul Salazar Jr. Thanks so much for listening. Carla the dog had a couple things to say, but we really didn't get to. Sorry, Carla, we didn't get to your segment. We'll try to make sure we fit that in for next time. But you can find her and cute pictures of her at good.dog.carla on Instagram. Check out the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com. Consider being a subscribing member. Consider actually being a paying member and get all of the content that we give away at the Space Cadet Sports blog. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it. The Astros are going to turn this all around. And vamos Astros.